Alrighty guys, we have a best of 5 series here between these two lovely players. Here at the top left, our first player, he's from Mouse Esports. He's our Blue Terran. It is Heromarine.
And his opponent spawning here in the bottom right corner of the map. Currently, I believe considered possibly, arguably, the #1 Zerg and #1 player in the world. Playing as the red Zerg player for the team Clash, it is REYNOR.
And you know what? That is very, very true. He is possibly considered the best player in the world right now. I mean, especially with him winning IEM Katowice Global Finals. I think he put himself there. And then also he hasn't really tailed off too much. There was a little bit of a lull period between a little bit after IEM where he wasn't performing the best in those minor tournaments. But he kind of have bounced back very recently, doing very well in the current Team Liquid Star League. And yeah, I think he is still going strong and making a case for being the #1 player. Now, of course, that title, it's very, I guess, debatable because, you know, you gotta have a sample size of some sort. So
more than one, yes.
Yeah, so, you know, like, for example, like Cero back in 2018, basically he went through like 1 to 2 years or so of dominance. And so he was able to, you know, make a rightful claim as the best player in the world. REYNOR has been doing it for a couple of months now, though, so he's certainly made a nice case for himself.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if I recall correctly, even now, a lot of people in the StarCraft 2 community are pretty hesitant to call Cero a bourgeois, right? Of course, that title is reserved for the top players in all of StarCraft 2 history. Now, I personally still consider Cero to be my pick for #1 player simply because of his consistency, not necessarily because of his ability to, you know, take #1 titles left and right like he did in 2018, but because he is so consistently in the lead and considered a favored player in pretty much everything that he plays in. All that being said, like you mentioned earlier, REYNOR is, you know, still fairly new to the scene. He's been pretty strong for, you know, a little while now, but definitely not nearly as long as Cero has, not nearly as long as the other true bourgeois of StarCraft 2 have been. So obviously, like you said, that title is definitely up for grabs. And of course, his opponent, Heromarine, no slouch himself either. Definitely one of the top Terrans of the EU scene. So we will have a very interesting, very exciting series, in my opinion, on our hands here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think everybody would say probably Clem is the for sure best Terran in EU right now, but Heromarine is right underneath him. I mean, he is the clear #2 guy in terms of Terran EU. But also, you know, talking, I want to go a little bit back to Cero. I mean, back in 2018 and 2019, Cero was kind of like almost a lock for either the semifinals or the finals in each event that he participated in. But we have seen a little bit of a slow decline here in terms of his results in the past year or two, where right now he is now getting knocked out in like the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and then in the loser bracket as well. So, you know, Cero is slowing a little bit of a decline, and I'm hoping that, you know, he will get back into form, because every player, of course, go through a period of slump, and I feel like this is a very crucial period where either Cero is gonna continue the slump and go downwards, or he will bounce back this year and try to reclaim his dominance and his title as the #1 player.
No, that is a very important point that you bring up, Snoopy, because, you know, if the slump continues, then that will be his 3rd year on that sort of downward trend. which is not ideal. Now, hold that thought because these Lings are actually going to get a cancel on one of the front walled NG base, so pretty nice, you know. That means that Heromarine is not going to be able to align his +1/+1 for the bio, but, you know, just a small thing. Now, I do like the Raven play. So earlier, he actually did fake out Banshee Cloak on the Starport Tech Lab, but of course, REYNOR, very consistent with his Overlord scouting, was able to see, hey, that is some BS, I'm calling it. That is actually an Overlord. Excuse me, not an Overlord. That is actually a Raven that you are producing. And so the Raven play is quite nice with the Hellions, you know, as long as you're active out on the map, which it looks like Heromarine is looking to do right now. You don't have to scan. That's actually a lot of energy that you save on the scans because you still have vision of the creep tumors with that Raven being a detector, able to provide vision of the creep tumors. And so shout out to Alpha X Kuna Matata. He likes to favor this sort of build a lot when he goes into bio against Zerg. Shout out to my boys over at UC Davis. I, of course, am at UC San Diego, so UC's represent. Small shout out, but anyways, it looks like Heromarine is going to have that third base up and running pretty quickly. So we are definitely going to go into the mid to the late game here.
Yeah, it's looking very much like that. And the +1/1 of REYNOR is finishing up soon. So he's definitely going to want to, you know, prolong this incoming attack until those upgrades finishes. In the meantime, REYNOR doing what REYNOR does best, going for that counterattack. Only with a couple of Lings though, so not the scariest of counterattacks. But probably going to be morphing them into Bane. Yep. Oh, actually going for an Overlord drop with it as well. So very creative.
Nice. Very cheeky. I do like that. I do like that a lot. Now, these Hellions up in the front are going to, you know, shark around for some more creep tumors. And of course, that really hurts. Not only does the creep recede, but the creep tumors provide vision because they function as structures for the Zerg. Now, at the same time, like you said, REYNOR doing REYNOR things, coming in still somehow, some way, finding the room to squeeze in a bunch of Lings into the natural, just dealing a lot of trouble because, of course, while you get a lot of, and that is going to be a lot of SCV kills with the Baneling drop in the main at the same time. Now, the Lings only got 4 themselves, but the Banelings got a bunch in the main. So these Lings, while they did not necessarily kill a lot, they functioned as a distraction, a key distraction for REYNOR, and that was a very successful eco sort of damage output from our Zerg. Now these Queens up in the front are actually going to be enough to sort of tank damage for the time being as REYNOR builds up his Ling Bane count at home. Those tanks are in a nasty position and they are being protected by the Hellions as well, Hellbats. Now these more Lings are going to come into the third base and go for another run by. So Heromarine is in a very dicey position if he does not do damage right here, right now.
Yeah, there's really no coming back. I mean, that is just too big of a gap there in terms of the worker count. So he's going to have to make do with what he has right now. Looks like, let's see here, how many tanks does he has? 5 tanks, got 51 Marines. Okay, not the worst army there, so he can make something happen. But it looks like REYNOR is setting up a nice little sandwich here.
Oh, and here we go. Banelings are rolling through. Siege tanks are all taken out by the Lings, and that is so much Ling Bane left. GG is called. REYNOR picks up game number 1.
REYNOR, I think one of the best things he does is those counterattacks, especially in the ZVT matchup. Yeah. And it was pretty much on full display in the last game why he is so good at this matchup, because he's so active in making sure he has that backdoor stab, and it really catches a lot of Terran players off guard. Now, the one Terran player that seems to have figured this out and REYNOR has had trouble dealing with is Clem. So that's right. Yeah, in the recent, I guess, EU region season finals, or I guess not the season finals, but the EU finals of the ESL, or I guess of DreamHack, we have seen Clem actually take series off of REYNOR, specifically in the finals, and it's because it seems like Clem has played REYNOR so much and so often that he has kind of figured out that as long as he does not take too much damage against the counterattacks, as long as he stays or puts some of his units and rallies some of his units back at home and make sure that they are protecting the home base, that REYNOR without the counterattack is not too hard to, or I guess not as difficult to defeat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is Zerg's strength in this matchup. Of course, you know, it would always be nice to be able to just take up nice straight-up fights and win, but that is rarely the case in tip-top level ZVTs, because the Terran is putting on so much pressure that it becomes impractical to shut it down outright in most cases. I'm talking about those, you know, big 1-1 pushes, those 2-2 pushes, that kind of thing. And, you know, of course, this is all specific to Bio, which I'm sure most of our audience knows has a higher sort of skill cap than Mech, which is why it's favored at the pro level. But yeah, so Zerg, you know, their only option at that point becomes to counterattack. And like you said, REYNOR does it so well. And really, I just want to highlight his patience. That is the key to his playstyle. You need to be so patient as Zerg to be able to sacrifice a base, to be able to tell your units to not engage, even if you have the perfect surround setup. Because REYNOR, he was basically constantly surrounding his opponent, right? He had the queens up front, tanking most of the damage. He had Lings to the north. He had Banes to the south. Everything was all set up at pretty much any given moment in time. But when did he pull the trigger? He never really did anything. He let his base die before getting, before, you know, baiting Heromarine up the ramp. And at that point, Heromarine's economy was devastated, right? It was basically decimated, cut in half, really. And that was the moment where he decided, okay, now I'm going to close out the game and guarantee the kill when I have a 360-degree surround and not just a 180-degree surround. So it really requires so much patience from the Zerg, which is why, like you mentioned, it's so interesting that Clem was able to take off a series, because it's kind of like a prodigy taking down another prodigy. You know, and it's just such a treat to watch, really.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, there's a reason why REYNOR, of course, is so damn good. And
yeah,
those are just some of the reasons why. But anyhow, looks like Heromarine is gonna go try to make some play here. Actually gets a Cyclone with 4 Marines. You don't see that quite as often, so pretty interesting little opening here for Heromarine. But REYNOR, with the great queen positioning, will defend it with very minimal losses.
Yeah, not even losing that queen to the Cyclone. So that Cyclone, you know, deals pretty nice damage, but actually does not get any kills here in the early game. Now, I do want to highlight that REYNOR, in this game, he did go for a pull first with a very late gas. So it's kind of like if anybody has seen the ESL Korea, where Dark did something similar. He went for spawning pull first, and then he went into quick 3 bases. So this is a very similar case with REYNOR. So obviously his speed for Zerglings has been heavily delayed. It's only just now about to finish, right when the Hellions are out on the map. And Big Gabe, aka Heromarine, going for the Raven play as well. Just, you know, saving that energy for mules back at home. Now, it is going to be pretty interesting to see these Hellbats moving up, because, of course, that medevac did just die, so no real sustainable staying power for our blue Terran here. These Hellions are going to move forward and deal pretty nice damage on the Queen so far, but, of course, that leaves the rest of the Terran units in the back free to be picked off by the Zerglings. So I'm not sure how this is going to go for our blue Terran so far. Some teams are going down, but not really enough to justify this push.
Ooh, well, he does have the queen in the corner, so we'll be able to take out all the rest of the queens. But again, this build, you need to get more than just queens. I mean, there's no drone kills here, no economic, really, not much economic damage, and yeah, even though he took out all these queens, 5 queens in fact, and actually a decent amount of Lings, I still say that REYNOR actually held that pretty well.
I agree. You could, you know, there's an argument to be made for calling that superficial damage, and superficial as in only army units went down. And, you know, that might seem counterintuitive at first, especially if you're new to StarCraft. It's like, yeah, why would I not kill my enemy's army? Well, the thing about that is that you are in a stage in this game as the Zerg and as the Terran where neither player can actually kill each other, right? You're in that period of time where no army is going to be able to outright kill the other without reinforcements being able to wipe out the remainder of your army. And so what happens is you've got both players sort of powering up their economy. And that's why pro-level players, you know, they tend in general not to favor cheeses, and they tend to favor just straight up macro play. It's for that reason. It's because these armies are so sort of sustainable in that they will be able to reinforce each other. So in that case, what I mean by superficial is that you saw a lot of army units going down, but not a lot of eco. Now hold that thought, because we do see a double drop coming into the main of the Zerg, and this definitely has potential for damage. Roaches are caught a little bit out of position, but just in time, only 3 workers are going down. Now this big Roach army counterattack is gonna kill off quite a bit here. The third base is evac'd. A bunch of SCVs are actually pulled off the line, and they're actually gonna be A-moved. That was not the move there. I don't think Heromarine meant to do that. I'm not sure if he did, but maybe he needed to, because this is too many roaches. But this is quite the counterattack.
Yeah, this third base is not going to be mined off of, at least for the next foreseeable future. Does a nice job trying to save as much SCVs, but only 1 SCV to save, as 26 of them does go down. And this is it. REYNOR is looking to march right into the throat of Heromarines base. Although he might want to go ahead and actually just fall back a little bit as that anti-armor missile wears down.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that is so key for Heromarine to stave off this mass of Roach Ravager, because obviously Roaches and Ravagers, you know, stacked up 1-to-1 in terms of supply, they do not go well against Bio. So as we do see, Zerg has that severe supply lead. It can be misleading, given that the Roaches are quite supply heavy, and they're actually quite cheap. So that anti-armor missile did a lot in, you know, holding REYNOR off, and it looks like REYNOR is going to reposition to try to hit the third base again. Now it's going to be up to Heromarine to see what he can do to defend against this third base, because these Roaches are coming back in. We do see a bit of a surround as well. First tank does go down. We do see another anti-armor missile going down. This Bio is shoving forward, but oh my gosh, it does not actually look like enough. More Roaches are streaming across the map. More SCVs are pulled off the line as well, and I don't think Heromarine has it.
I don't know. It's very, very close. I mean, there are only a few Roaches and Ravagers left over, and Marines and Marauders are pretty good against it, but I mean, at what cost? I mean, all the mining time that was lost by Heromarine, all the SCVs that has been pulled here, 9 more going down, and REYNOR still working off a 4 base, one of them being the gold base, and he's still making a lot of Roaches.
Yeah, once you're in this position, it's you know, once you've committed to Roaches, you are committed. Unless you're going into Ravager Link, which is, you know, another very nice comp. Roach Ravager is also quite nice, but yeah, this is what I meant by non-superficial damage, right? Both players still have sustained armies, but the difference being SCVs are, oh my gosh, Heromarine pulling the SCVs off the line for a third time, having no choice but to, you know, cripple his own economy just to survive. This is what I meant by non-superficial damage, because as the game drags on, REYNOR pulls more and more ahead, and the only way that Heromarine can win, his only win condition is to drag this out and hope, just hope, that REYNOR does not sustain his economy. He mines out of those 4 bases and continues to take bad trades, which of course is the point of this army composition. But that does not look to be the case, as his army is finally starting to dwindle. You see the Roaches, Ravagers, and some Lings as well shoving forward with nothing left to defend the third base. Even some Queens as well. GG is called. Heromarine taps out.
Alright, we are here for what could be potentially the last game of the series, unless this guy here at the bottom left has something to say about it. He's our blue Terran player from Mouse Esports. He is Heromarine.
And his opponent Up 2-0, putting him on match point in this best of 5 series. Playing for the Team Clash, it is the Red Zerg, REYNOR.
And yeah, it looks like REYNOR up 2-0, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel kind of sorry for Heromarine because these games has looked kind of one-sided.
Yeah, really. I mean, REYNOR has not really given Heromarine a chance to showcase his excellent Terran versus Zerg. And not only that, but putting him on a 2-0 or 0-2 deficit in a best of 5 means that Heromarine's only win condition here is for a full reverse sweep. And that is rare in any sort of 1 versus 1 sport, especially in StarCraft.
Yeah, and especially against this guy. You know, you don't
yeah.
You don't really see this guy losing 3 straight in a row.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that is a pretty good point. I feel like with all of these tip-top level pros, you know, obviously each personality type lends itself to different pros and cons, but, you know, for example, Cyril is very, very hard on himself. And by the way, shout out to all of my StarCraft fans and players out there who are also hard on themselves. I myself am actually taking a bit of a break from competitive StarCraft because my team that I manage for my university is also on summer break. But I tend to be very hard on myself as well. You know, I'm not comparing well, I am kind of comparing myself to Cyril. But what I mean by that is that, you know, I know that a lot of players can be very, very competitive and very self-deprecating and toxic to themselves. And I feel like that's, you know, the case with me, which is why I'm stepping back. And that is definitely the case with players like Cyril. And we can see, you know, whenever he loses, he looks visibly upset with himself. Now, I'm not too familiar with REYNOR, but from what I've heard, that is not the case with him, and I feel like he has a, you know, a bit of a stronger, more consistent mentality when it comes to these games, when it comes to, you know, losing one series here and there, or losing one game here and there. Like you said, it's not common that he loses 3 straight games in a row. He's able to just sort of pick himself back up and say, hey, that was just one game, shake it off, I will be fine coming up in the next one.
Yeah. Let's see if Heromarine can make a dent in REYNOR's will here with this game, because this is pretty much do or die. His back is against the wall, and it's unfortunate because Heromarine he's been one of those players in EU that has been hovering around like 6.8 to 7k MMR.
Oh,
and usually a player of that level, of that MMR skill, they usually have like decent significant results, but he's always up against either REYNOR or Clem or Sero or Showtime maybe, or maybe a Korean player, and he hasn't really gotten that breakout, you know, win compared to his other European counterparts.
Yeah, definitely. It's unfortunate. You know, the field is just so competitive. So, I mean, it's StarCraft 2 is a game where the player base is not only highly dedicated, and like most of us are pretty much not going anywhere, but we are also constantly improving. Constantly, we are never stopping, and the same especially goes for the pro level, which can be quite punishing. You know, it's tough to, it's very tough to be a pro player who has good results.
Yeah, I mean, the other day, like my friend, he hasn't played StarCraft 2 in a while, but he just got back recently, and he was like, he's playing against Diamond players, and he's like, wait, well, hold on a minute. These Diamond players are like actually really good now.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's because like over the years, the level of skills has improved across the board, and so what used to be maybe I guess a master player is now a diamond player, or what used to be a diamond player is now a platinum player. I mean, the skill has definitely gone up, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Now we are gonna see these Hellions try to poke forward for now, picking off a creep timber here and there, and REYNOR with his very consistent Overlord micro is gonna actually, earlier he did send in 2 speed overlords and scouted out that the starport was building something. Heromarine was trying to fake him out by not actually showing that it was a Banshee and not actually starting Banshee Cloak until after the Overlords were taken care of. You know, just to sort of fake out his opponent and say, hey, I'm going for a Raven, there's nothing to worry about. So now we are going to see these two Banshees coming in. It doesn't look like they're going to deal much damage because, or excuse me, they are not going to focus on the mineral lines. They are going to supplement the Hellbats in front actually, so it does have a bit more punch than the last game. But they are not going to go for the SCVs, was the point that I was trying to make, because they're worse than safety spores. Now these Queens are getting dangerously low on health as the Hellions, the Hellbats, do actually find room to finally get in that mineral line as well, but their numbers are starting to dwindle, and just like last game, this is not enough economic damage to actually justify that kind of investment in so many Hellbats and also that pair of Banshees as well.
Yeah, and it's deja vu again. I mean, again, no Medivacs to heal those Hellbats, so they were kind of pretty much on the lifeline or on the timer, and REYNOR once again holding off with relatively little losses. And at this point, he can pretty much drone up, spread those creep as much as he wants, tech up if he wants, getting those upgrades. So REYNOR, he's gonna be able to, you know, kind of dictate the pace from here, going from here on forward. So REYNOR, I would expect him to kind of turtle up a little bit, kind of play more defensively, and he might be able to, you know, go across the map and like drop, but he does. I don't even think. Yeah, okay, he just made his initial few medevacs, so looks like he will be sending out one with 3 Widow Mines in the cargo.
Yeah, I like that Overlord with the Banelings stored up in it. The Dropper Lord is going to head over to Heromarine side of the map. And like you said, REYNOR has free reign. He can sort of just do whatever he wants at this point. I mean, I do like the move from Heromarine going heavy into Widow Mines. So we do see double factories, and Drilling Claws has already been researched. And so that is a pretty good move going up against a player like REYNOR, who, of course, is infamous for his Ling Bane playstyle. And Ling Bane is pretty hard countered by Widow Mines. Now, of course, if your micro is perfect, which players like Serral and Heromarine and Serral, and, you know, all of the other players that we've mentioned here tonight have, Widow Mines can deal a lot less damage. But here we go. As I say that, 14 drones do go down, so obviously REYNOR was caught off guard by this usage of Widow Mines. Now, of course, he does have a bit of a bank, so he is going to be able to just, you know, restart a bunch of drones at the same time. So that kind of damage is only going to hurt his larva count, really, but even that is kind of superficial. Now, another Widow Mine drop, it looks like, but it is actually not going to complete as a bunch of Spore Crawlers take care of that medevac before it can drop out.
Well, on the other side, though, we do see REYNOR going to go ahead and do his own drop with these 4 Baneling. Let's see if these can connect better compared to Heromarines Widow Mine drop. And here we go. No pull yet.
Oh, wow. Okay, so 11 SCVs, and that was pretty critical. Now, at the same time, we do see a 1-1 push coming out for Heromarine, so he is a bit more dedicated to this now that he's lost those 11 SCVs. And, you know, the Widow Mines are not getting the hits that they need, and so the 5th base is taken out. But at this point, as the Zerg, you don't really need a 5th base against the Terran that has been, you know, so crippled economically. And at the same time, Heromarine, a bit of a blunder. His 4th base is not actually on location. It was a bit mismicroed, so it's not actually going to land. So, yeah, I mean, the longer this game goes on, I'm going to be honest with you, Snoopy, this is looking more like a 3-0 sweep. I don't really know how Heromarine... You know, there's always potential for catching up, but at this point, he's not doing a really good job of that. Now, this is helping with the bio coming in here and taking care of some of these queens.
You know what? I agree with you. I mean, REYNOR, he's playing so well. I mean, even just a reaction time to these Widow Mine drops, like he is reacting like the second that they go in, and he is on it. I mean, his attention to the minimap has been superb, and right now he has a huge well, I guess actually, as I look at the army supply, Heromarine is the one that actually got the huge army supply. But however, they're all into those Marines, and Banelings can just easily roll in unless Heromarine can split it. But that's only if.
Yeah, that was a pretty insane engagement. I'm so surprised that those Widow Mines did not get even bigger hits. So that was either very unlucky for Heromarine or very well played by REYNOR to micro the specific Ling ahead. Now we do see another Widow Mine drop in the main base, dealing, you know, decent damage, getting 6 drones. But at this point in the game, I mean, you know, this is the point where we start to see the Zerg really start to bank up and ramp up their tech as well, as we do see that Lurker tech coming into play as well. And of course, Lurker Bane Ling is something that a lot of Terrans really dislike. Now, Heromarine is pushing forward as well, but his 2-2 is just about to finish. His 2-2 is actually kind of late, so he did focus on just maxing out rather than focusing on keeping up in the upgrades. And I can respect that, but the thing is, REYNOR, on the other hand, already has 2-2, making his defense a lot easier, and at the same time, he is getting +3 Carapace as well as +1 for his Lurkers, as well as Vipers. So he's basically getting all of the different tools in the toolkit.
We do see once again REYNOR going for that infamous run by here. Will force our Heromarine to evacuate and just sacrifice that base. Oh man.
Yeah, Heromarine. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that the front push with the Liberators and the tanks, you know, we're seeing pacing sort of slow down with the Lurkers on one side and the Libs on the other. So the pacing of the game has slowed down when it comes to the main engagement, but like you said, the counterattacks, the Ling Bane counterattacks, those are what's key. Oh, and that is not actually a good trade. We do see some Lings coming in from the back, just sort of dying to a bunch of the siege tanks, so that's not really the engagement that you want.
Yeah, I do like this decision here by Heromarine to attack at the left side, because a lot of the attack is into the right side. So making sure that he wants to do the double prong and keep the Zerg kind of guessing, making sure that the Zerg has army at the left and right side. But look at this annoying Lurker drop here.
Yeah.
In the midst of all this chaos, by the way.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, REYNOR still finding the APM to, you know, dedicate time and energy to a single Lurker, getting 6 SCVs, as well as a tank earlier on, which was quite cheeky. I did like that. But yeah, so, oh, blinding clouds and yoinks going down on the tanks, which were left alone, unfortunately. And Heromarine not taking a good engagement. The bio is left all alone, being shredded, absolutely shredded by the Lurkers. Even though that was off creep, Heromarine is, you know, being pulled, stretched thin left and right, because he is dealing with a Lurker drop, he is dealing with damage to his cross third base, and now this planetary is in trouble, and Heromarine is in trouble himself in general, because this is starting to look like the beginning of the end as REYNOR is shoving forward. Vipers are getting those nice juicy yoinks on the tanks, and this is not it. I mean, Heromarine is dipping in supply and REYNOR is shoving forward. Heromarine taps out. REYNOR takes this final series 3-0.